So Scott, I'm going to rearrange our format here today because a few weeks ago now, it's been 3 weeks that Texas Open happened. So Eric and I went and played the Texas Open in men's 4-5, 50-60 division. And we went 1-2. And, weren't the results we were hoping for, but, there were some high points and low points. And it's funny because we had a debriefing after, and Eric and I have been talking relentlessly about what we could have done better and ever since the tournament. And I went back yesterday and got the footage to capture some points for you to analyze today and get some highlights. And I was like, well, it wasn't as bad as we thought. Now, clearly the results speak for themselves, not what we wanted. But here we are. So the main premise of today, I think, will be how to deal with bangers. And this is a surprise to me and Eric because we thought we were totally fine with people hitting it hard at us. And we were through the 4-0 level, but there are some 4-5 and higher level bangers that are next level, right? So, and in a tournament setting, in a windy tournament setting, the wind was crazy in Dallas, McKinney, Texas for that tournament. And being from Colorado, we've been practicing indoors most of the winter, didn't get a chance to play outdoors much. That was a whole new variable that I think Eric and I weren't prepared to handle. We were trying to drop, and I hit several drops into the net when the wind was blowing in our face, hit several pop-ups when I was trying to slow them down when the wind was on our backs. And that game is that. Those conditions are suited well for bangers, right?
Sure.
So you'll see in the tape. So, yeah, why don't we jump straight into analyzing tape? And you don't have to analyze every point, but I wanted to give kind of a summary of two of our matches. So the first one we won, second one put us in a back draw. I don't have any from the third one, but the second one is a really representative of here are two really good. Well, one of them in particular was a very heavy hitter, clearly tennis background, and we just couldn't handle it.
And before we do that, just kind of jumping back into, macro level, what we're up to here of, the goal of breaking through 4-5. I mean, you put yourself in a position on court with opponents with dupers higher than yours and Eric's, and that's what we need in order for you to move up. And we, came in second place in those matches, and your duper doesn't go up. It probably goes down a little.
It's the same.
It's the same. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
it went up on the first match and then leveled back.
Right. So no blood, no foul on the duper side of things, but opportunity, which is what we need to be in a duper sanctioned event against players with higher dupers.
Right.
So we'll do more. Next event in June.
Yeah, for sure, June.
Okay.
PPA San Clemente. We'll probably play one or so local tournaments in between.
Okay, which may or may not be duper related because they're not all
right.
duper these days.
Sure.
But, we need more opportunities. We keep getting better. I mean, the last few programs, that we've done, we're really focusing on you and your game and strategy and mechanics and all of that. But then if we're going to break through, we need competitive tournament play, which we're getting.
Yep.
So the good, the bad, and the ugly.
For sure. We'll see all three of those.
All right.
All right, let's get into the tape here.
Let's see some pickleball.
In beautiful McKinney, Texas. Like I said, very windy. Second match in particular.
We're playing the light blue lines here. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little confusing.
Okay. We'll just clarify that. Well, we covered this on our last show. Did you guys have a plan? John, you're the hooded player over there. It must have been breezy. Did you guys have a plan for how we might handle thirds as far as this middle ball goes?
So we talked about it, kind of respecting the X when we're both, so righty-lefty combo, and we don't really have a alpha role established yet. So yeah, there does seem to be a little confusion on this first point.
Okay.
It's coming toward me, and normally I'm the one that steps in front of Eric, by accident.
Right.
But it looks like Eric stepped in front of me on this one.
Yeah, and I think, in this case of respecting the X, if we let Eric take the ball, you're in a better position to move ahead of him and be in the optimistic but realistic position.
Okay.
A little harder for you to take the ball and Eric to get ahead of you here. especially given where he's going to drop the ball.
So you like Eric taking that ball, but you want me moving forward.
I think if I were you, I'd let Eric take it with his left hand.
Okay.
I've mentioned when I play mixed, I like my partner to use her two-handed backhand for this shot so that can release me into the midcourt and cause some stress.
Okay.
And with a lefty partner, that's one of the advantages.
Yeah.
Like when you were playing with Mari Tamora.
Yeah.
Of maybe let her take that ball so you can skip ahead.
Okay.
A little bit.
And regarding the hoodie, it's not a fashion statement. My dermatologist keeps scolding me, and I've got some. They keep cutting stuff out of me, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to wear this hoodie when I'm in.
Did it bother you any?
In Texas? Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. I think it would bother me a little bit.
Yeah, the sound is alone.
Okay.
You don't pick up on as many cues, but anyway.
Maybe we can explore other options, head coverings that aren't a hood. I don't know. We'll
for
see.
sure.
Okay, well, let's this point go a little bit. I love it. Okay, so we've watched a grand total of 1 point, and right now I would wager that you guys maybe have decided that if we play traditional pickleball, longer, slower molasses-style rallies might favor us against these guys. Was that a proactive decision, or that's just how that rally turned out?
So this was the second game. We won the first one, and we were down 8-0 on the first game, and then we cleaned up our game, and this is how we modeled our game to win the first one. So we're doing what we did to win the first one, like you said, kind of traditional, slowing down. We felt more confident with our finesse game than we thought our opponents could do.
Great, and it looks like, at least on this one rally, that there was not haste to go further down the risk continuum and instigate an attack, and something you might do if you were losing with this style of play. So I see deliberate dinking, getting a few dinks out of the air, getting them off balance. We got our pop up. You put it away. This looks like a great formula for success.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great guys, our opponents here. They were chatting us up before.
Super.
One of them owns a MLP team.
Oh, okay.
Guy serving right now.
Well, now they're on the breakthrough. So
right.
Crafty, John. Yeah, I think at this point, I love the fact that they're not 100% set yet, and you decide to instigate. Mm-hmm. And the body language that you're showing me here, if I'm the opponents, I'm thinking dink. I'm thinking we got away with it. We're good. There's nothing to worry about here. Their shields are not in a great spot. We may as well go ahead and instigate. It works out great.
Okay.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I've always kind of had, since I hit about 4.0, is just kind of that sneaky speed up down the middle, and I saw the gap here and took advantage of it.
Yeah, and we've talked about the hula hoop of death, which is that spot in the middle of the two guys that's about chest high. Mm-hmm. That frequently I want us, players knocking on the door of 4-5 to avoid. Because if these guys got a jump on that or got a read that you were going to try to split the middle,
right.
They're going to put that ball away.
Sure.
So if that was your target, you needed to have the stealthy acting skills that you're displaying here, and their shields are down and they're not expecting to be attacked.
Right.
And then they are.
Okay.
And that's what makes it work. Plus the hood, too.
Stealthy.
Yeah.
I hit an out ball.
I think so. Let's go back a little bit more. Okay, return a serve. Here comes a third. He's clearly going to drive that ball. I don't know. You think that one's out?
maybe not. It had good dip. Now that I look, but I can see I'm behind it. And this is an issue you'll see, and you'll probably point out. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder here.
No problem.
Against bangers, I have a tendency not to have my paddle when I'm not performing well against bangers, not to have my paddle out in front of me to take care of that, but try to have a little bit of a backswing there. You can see I got behind the ball here. I'm holding up,
Right.
my paddle, and it's bent back instead of out in front of me.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure it's going out. We're going to want a series of clues for you to tap into prior to your opponent even hitting the ball. And then there are some clues after the ball leaves his paddle. Mm-hmm. And, one of them, I can't tell from here, but which way is the wind blowing?
Yeah, I can't remember on this game. I think, it was. We had it in our faces on this one, so it would have been safer for me to let it go. But looking back at the tape, it had a good arc on it. Maybe it would have dipped.
Yeah, in and of itself, without the knowledge of wind or fully realizing how much spin he has on the ball, I think the safe play was to play it.
Okay.
In this case, now clearly they're running a shake and bake here at this point, and it is something we can talk about now or later about beating bangers. He's going early.
Yeah.
And probably not the first time he's done this, if you're in game 2 here. So the room is behind him here. And I'll go ahead and jump ahead a little bit against, playing against a shake and bake team, assuming this isn't the first time you've seen this, and black shirt drives, probably even prior to the rally starting, you might want more of a proactive anti-shake and bake mindset.
Okay.
Which is, if they drive at me, I can expect white shirt to lean middle. Mm-hmm. And the room is going to be behind him.
Okay.
And even if he's just leaning a little bit middle, it's a safe play to go right back where he was. Right. And that could be either a clean winner in this case if you go behind him, because nobody's covering his side of the court.
Sure.
At this point, and or get kind of a weak ball out of him.
Okay. Worked out great for them.
Yes. Yeah. Good for them. So, they may have decided the converse of what you and Eric decided is you guys want long, slow, molasses, traditional style rallies.
Right.
They want short, fast power.
Yep.
A little bit more, and good for them. They made that work.
Right.
Oh.
Not a very exciting point, but I just...
There's good stuff in every rally. So Eric, I don't remember the timing of this, but the last time we reviewed tape, Eric would have been level with you here.
Yeah.
And that got him into a little bit of a problem. And I think, so whether he benefited from that or not, he is showing the compliment to you that you deserve, is this drive is likely to be good. Eric needs to be ahead of you, and he needs to apply pressure, not only forward, but middle. You find right shoulder, great spot. Eric's right in this guy's grill, and it's just too much for him to handle.
By the way, Eric is a great student of your
Okay.
teaching, and he was so excited on the last episode that you were analyzing our game. And since then, he's been like, okay, he's really been chatting me up and talking about this, and in particular, our being a little more forceful getting to the net. If it bounces, then pounce, right? So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if Eric is 2-3 steps back here, black shirt opponent makes this volley. Yeah. I think you're to be mostly credited with a great drive, finding his right shoulder. Again, he should be more backhand shield. I don't want to play this one with a forehand in the chicken wing. But out of the corner of his eye, he's worried about a pop-up to Eric.
Sure.
And he just doesn't have enough room to Eric's left, and he doesn't, Eric's pressure definitely complemented your excellent drive, and that's the results we want.
Good.
Great teamwork.
All right. Second match.
New court. Okay.
All right. Wind is blowing very heavily toward me and Eric at this point. So,
okay, you guys are hitting into the wind.
Right.
Okay. What do we know about that before you even play? Tell us about your opponents.
You mean what we knew about them at the first point?
Well, so I'm asking what we should be factoring in as far as the wind goes prior to the match starting.
Okay.
And then I was asking to learn a little bit more about the opponents. So what do you know about the opponents now?
Both bangers. Well, in particular, the guy, I think the guy on the right receiving the ball is the main banger. Both of them are very good at drives.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy with is that a Lux? I thought he had a Lux. It might be
No.
It looks like a 007 maybe.
It's 007.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of those.
That makes sense. That makes me feel better about myself. I thought we got blown off the court by a guy playing with a Lux. But,
Okay.
But the 007, a little more firepower. Okay.
Well, one of my favorite partners, Chad Shane, will blow you off the court with his locks.
It happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a guy named Jack Sock's pretty good at making pace
True.
with that paddle as well.
Alrighty. So your question, what do we know about them? Now, we saw during warm-up that he had a great drive, clearly tennis background. Didn't know much about the guy on the left, but the guy holding the Selkirk 007. Big, powerful drives.
And they have the wind behind them.
They had the wind behind them. So you'll see in a second.
Okay.
I was anticipating them possibly hitting some balls out.
Okay, great.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be a brief conversation you and Eric might have when choosing serve, return, or side. You know, we're on this side. These guys are big hitters.
Yeah.
Did you see them play previously?
No.
Okay. Just watching them in warm-ups?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, good. At this level in warm-ups, hey, you know, half your attention is on you and your partner. The other half, what can we learn from these guys?
Right, for
And
sure.
factor that all in. Okay. Excited.
That was one of the rare points we got on them.
I love it. Okay. At what point, John, do you know that Eric's drop is going to be good?
Right now.
Right now?
Yeah. So
Okay. And there you go. Good. Now, could you possibly get any worse body language, or from your perspective, better body language that you need to, you know, complete? Oh, you're starting to lean left. You're looking for the
I'm
Ernie.
looking for the Ernie.
You're looking for the Ernie. So for everybody else out there, when you're the partner of the player hitting a third and you see a guy getting ready to hit a fourth that looks like this, pounce.
Right.
Get in their face. It can't get worse than that. Oh, what can he possibly do from this spot? I mean, good for him. He doesn't give up an Ernie. But, you know, Eric gets to do his own shake and bake there. So great job.
Yeah. I think him seeing me go for Ernie probably forced him to pop it up a bit to Eric.
Absolutely. Yes. If I didn't, you know, properly credit you, you know, I just love, and we talked about it on the last show, that the non-hitter of the third has a role to play here, and it's to provide pressure and stress and that little bit of move to your left. He's like, I better not reset that to John. And he's not in good balance to be able to reset this to Eric, and Eric closes the deal. Great job. So then you guys just roll from here?
Okay. We thought. That's what we thought.
Okay. All right.
So,
Comment from you?
third shot drive, fifth shot drive, seventh shot drop, which caught the wind and dropped in the net. Now, they're dealing with the wind just as much as we are. But you can see me kind of in my head, like, what do I do in response to this heavy wind? I wanted to keep banging, but I was like, you know, I need to drop it at some point, but it didn't work out.
Okay. So I'm stopping here because, as we've talked about a little bit, I want you to be able to hit a forehand, and I want you to be able to step in to your third. And I think both you and Eric are a little close to the baseline. You know, let's set up with a visualization and an alignment that favors you stepping into a forehand, and he hits an impactful return, and that's not your best body position, you know, for a third. I think had you started 2 or 3 steps back, you could step into this drive. I mean, it's an excellent drive, but your center of mass is going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Much better technique right there. So, you know, the excuse for driving the fifth here, you know, an acceptable excuse might be you're hitting into a strong wind, you know, which is harder to drop and easier to have confidence that you can keep this ball in play.
Right.
So I don't think this is a terrible decision. If you're on the other side of the net, I think it's a terrible decision if you have a tailwind.
Right.
But into the wind, I think drive, and you get the body language that we want. I mean, good for him for using his backhand shield. If he uses forehand here, he's going to pop this ball up. So he's able to get that down. And you get the ball you want, Yeah. I think that's fine. The wind knocked it down. I mean, it's a windy day. I'd rather err on the long side here than the short side. But, at this level of play, we're probably going to need to drop a ball into the kitchen. It doesn't need to be on the third. Could we have dropped on the fifth? Maybe. But we get a nice, easy ball to drop. So tactically speaking, all good.
Okay.
Execution-wise, we're dealing with wind, and you're an indoor player these days.
Yeah. All right.
Could have stayed down through it a little bit more. Maybe half volley it, which
Right.
you do well. Little sun for Eric to deal with there. That's unfortunate. Overall, great rally. Was there
Yeah.
anything that you wanted to comment on
No,
for
I just
yourself
thought that was
there?
a good representative sample of, we didn't totally blow it.
No.
We're
And they
playing
did
okay.
and they did a nice job not panicking.
Right.
When the ball got over their head,
Yeah, for sure.
they worked their way incrementally back in.
And then we'll see. I've got a sampling of, the rest of the next 2 games, and they ended up winning 11-2, 11-2.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see some of their.
Okay.
I mean, they were great.
They look like solid players.
Yeah.
Probably 4.9s.
Yeah, one of them was a 5-0. All right, that was me anticipating. Heavy drive went on his
That's
back.
a good idea to anticipate that.
Yeah, he's winding up, full swing.
And look, I love that. That's great. Okay.
In my mind, I'm like, if it goes over my paddle, I'm letting it go.
Yeah, but I mean, you asked for in the homework section to, how can we improve the forehand block? I mean, this is a great way to do it. You're just making some proactive decisions. The ball's not even on his paddle yet. You're low, committed to forehand shield, and if this ball is less than a foot over the net, you're going to hit it, and any higher than that, you're going to let it go. And at this point, you've decided, get out of the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it hits the fence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty much. Oh, yeah, on the fly.
He was just getting it dialed in.
Okay.
The rest of them
that was not dialed in. Yeah, good for you. That's,
Eric's went a little wide.
oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, credit to Blue Shirt, with his footwork here. At this point, I think, his ability to slide left and create space for his forehand,
Right.
that's really nice. Last show, I slowed down, and Eric, I know he's a lefty, but he had a similar situation where he's stuck with backhand in this case. And this guy's forehand's strong enough. He slides left, creates space, and uses really good technique. Eric does a great job getting it back, but apparently a little wide. We can't tell for sure. But I think the call was out. Okay.
Where's the close call replay?
Close call. Yeah.
Super nice guys, by the way.
Yeah, good.
It would have been
good.
more damaging had they dominated us like they did and been jerks about it. But
Right. No,
they would
okay.
hit a winner and
They killed you with kindness.
Right.
I want to point out, since I picked on Eric last time, how much I like where he's standing right now. This is how you play righty-lefty pickleball. I mean, he's pretty close to that middle line. He's got that forehand ready to go. And I think if he had this one over again, he wins the rally,
Yeah.
with this shot. He just doesn't quite get it in the sweet spot, and that's just wind, I think. And, credit to Dark Blue Shirt.
Yeah. Again, tennis strokes.
Yeah. But also, I mean, watch his split step timing. If he's still moving when the ball's on Eric's paddle, he's in trouble. But look at that split step timing.
Yeah,
He's
perfect.
ready to react.
Yeah.
And he, again, backhand shield. You know, he went middle, and his split step timing is excellent. He reads and reacts, and good for him. Great technique.
Yeah.
Made up for that drive he put in the fence. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. He's just solid player.
Yeah. Now, I mean, you can talk about what to do in the middle of this rally, but the mistake, and it's, you know, wind, is the return's just not deep enough.
Yeah.
That's just, we got to get a deeper return. He uses excellent technique and kind of handles it. I mean, what is Eric going to do here? Like, if I'm in his ear right now, he's got to do a soft cross-court reset. That's really all he can do.
Yeah.
You know, the straight ahead, there's just not enough room to land the ball in the kitchen, and then this guy's technique is good enough to win the rally.
And everybody knows this, but it's worth saying. Looking at play on video makes it look so much slower. This guy's drives in real life felt like they were coming, 100
And
miles
he's
an
got
hour.
a tailwind.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad I didn't have to play this ball. You know, I mean, he finds Eric's left hip. And, you know, the only thing that we can do is say, Eric, next time we're in this position right here is try to reset cross court, leverage the lower net and the greater real estate that's afforded cross court.
Right.
Because the straight ahead reset against a player this good gets you in trouble. Mm-hmm. But the guy made his own trouble.
All right.
Oh, that's a great reset. Oh. Wow.
We switch sides.
Yes.
So we are now, wind is on our backs. Wind is in their face, which definitely benefits their game.
Yes. Well, they can tee off without any worry. It's a great reset from Eric.
Yeah.
So we talk on this show a lot about when we get it to bounce, we pounce. Mm-hmm. And I think Eric needs to do a little bit more of that right here. I'm glad that you're there, and this guy does a good job hiding his intentions. Mm-hmm. But, middle's pretty open because Eric's not all the way up. I'd like to see him a little bit further up, and this guy just finds a great spot.
Yeah.
If he goes middle, you've got that.
Yeah, right here.
You're leaning middle, and I think that's a great play. I can't read the geometry well enough to know if that would have gone out or not.
I think I was kicking myself because I thought it was going out.
Okay.
And you'll see on the next point, I let one go out, and it dropped in perfectly.
Okay.
And then I was just like, wow, man.
Yeah. Especially if they had a tailwind, I'd definitely let this go wide. But who knows with the wind.
Yeah, I tried to get out of the way, but I just couldn't.
Just a good, maybe find center mass on you. Good play. Well, he does kill you with kindness. He puts his hand up every time.
See, I dodged that one.
That
I'm like,
was
that's
in?
going out. Yeah.
Okay, in no wind or tailwind, the right move there is to let it just proactively get out of the way.
Yeah.
I think
it
that's
was well in too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got great top spin on his drives.
Yeah. Okay, so let's check your split step timing.
Not the best.
A tad late. Well, yeah, late.
Yeah.
So we got to, So that's that exercise we've done. Hit your return of serve and move forward until the ball's on his paddle and split.
Yeah.
So we're against, we're up against the 8 ball here a little bit because that split's too late for a solid block, but you get a solid block anyway. And I like this play that we'll probably talk about in key concepts a little bit against big hitters. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to clarify my thoughts on what a banger is, but against big hitters like this, giving him this ball as he gets ready to hit a fifth is somewhat ideal.
Yeah.
Because what we're wagering on is if he insists on driving, 8 out of 10 go out or into the net.
Yeah, I mean, look where he is on the court. Look where the ball is.
It's very favorable for you to proactively get out of the way.
Yeah.
And it's unlikely he can keep this ball in. The only thing he's got going for him, in addition to his technique and spin, is he's got a little headwind or a lot of headwind, to hit into. No wind or a tailwind, you're right. That ball goes long. And/or you're just losing to better players.
Both.
Maybe a little bit of both right there. He gets some good topspin on it. I think you make the good play. Now, the geometry is not terribly unfavorable for him because he's in the middle of the court. If he's further left and he hits at you, then I think it goes wide. But in the middle of the court, yeah, boy, he just finds a good spot.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yep. Good play.
Better split step timing. Uh-oh. Da-na-na, da-na-na.
And that was horrible on my part, but I had to show that as a highlight reel. The tweeners, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean.
And you could tell, like, this is where my mental game started falling apart. Nothing was going our way. Normally, the backhand flick is one of my stronger shots. I'm a little late on my split step there.
It's very similar to the previous rally. And love having those two forehands in the middle there. I think if Eric gets, all right, he gets a neck cord. I was going to say, I think if he gets his sweet spot on this ball, that the rally's over. But the neck cord.
I mean, he even drives his tweeners.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough guy to play against right there.
And I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I hit into the fence behind me.
Yeah. So at this point, and we've seen this on videotape review before at Autry Park that we were videoing, if I'm you here, I'm looking for Ernie. If he resets straight at you, that can either be a jump the corner backhand Ernie, or you can slide over and use your forehand. He should be resetting that cross court.
Okay. Yeah, I missed that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And, you just
risky.
get it late. You're not going to miss that too often. But these guys are forcing you to raise your game, like I have to get more on this because they're getting everything back.
Right.
And we're losing.
Yeah.
So I think if it's even, you put this ball in play. But don't miss that cue for an Ernie next time. It's just right there. Take that step left. He's not looking at you right now. Take that step left and perch for it.
Yep. I mean, there's a clear intention. He wanted to go to my left. I should have seen that.
Yeah. And this is that 4-0-4-5 area. Under 4-0, he gets away with dropping this ball to your backhand. But at your level, we want to not let him get away with that because you can Ernie that ball. Gone.
Yeah, it went over the fence.
Yeah. Good deep return. Yeah. That's nice. These guys are good players.
Yeah. They made us earn every point we won. All 4 points we won.
Right. You make the perfect decision, right here. The only thing, this ball's in the air for a while, and you decide forehand. Maybe we slide left like navy blue shirt guy did earlier. Slide left so we can get some topspin on this ball. Maybe wagering, if I can go at his feet with a heavier ball, a ball with some spin, we can get a foul ball or a pop-up out of him. But overhead smash technique, we've talked about this, from eye level, frequently hits the net or goes long. But it's not a very difficult half volley because it has no spin on it.
Sure.
For him. So maybe slide left and hit more of a high swinging topspin volley instead of overhead smash or pancake technique.
Okay.
But just a great reset to keep that low. He's obviously got a wealth of paddle sports in his background. Good job, Eric. Yeah, again, when that ball is above your head, let's use overhead smash technique. But once we get to eye level or lower, I'd really like to see high forehand swinging topspin on that ball because the ball you hit frequently goes in the net or goes in the fence. This is a good time for overhead smash technique. Any lower than that, topspin.
Okay.
That's tough.
Yeah.
He's going to apologize again. Yeah. So returns are too short, but on a windy day, whether you have a tailwind or a headwind, it's hard to control that. They're serving big, returns are short.
Right.
Their ground strokes are too good.
Yeah. Our post-game analysis, that was the main thing we identified, was we did not get our return of serves deep enough.
Right.
And it's, you can think of all the excuses in the world. We just should have done it. But when you're tight during tournament, especially with the wind, when the wind's on your face, you don't get it deep enough because of the wind's blowing it. And when it's on your back, you're thinking, I don't want to hit it out. So you choke and it drops short. So he was just teeing off on all of these mid-court returns.
Yeah. Yeah, and their play is clearly that, blue shirt's going to take most of these thirds.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I'm his partner, I would be on the line by now. Like, why be level with him? He's going to drive and good things are going to happen for them.
Yeah.
That ball may have been out. It's hard to say. There's a lot of pace on that, but also spin. So deeper returns, easier said than done.
Yeah.
Is that all she wrote?
That's a wrap.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you a question. What type of players did we lose to?
I mean, I'm anticipating you're not going to call them bangers.
Why not?
I guess when I think about it, bangers is more of a derogatory term for people with like a one-trick pony who all they do is bang it. And clearly they're just great players, right?
Right.
They have a well-rounded game and they use their power game effectively. It's clearly their strength, but that's not all they have. So, yeah, I would call them, if we're defining bangers as that's all you got, then they're not bangers. They're more than that.
Sure. Is Christian Alshon a banger?
Right. Yeah.
Hayden Patrickman is a banger?
Yeah.
I mean, they hit a big ball.
Right.
They can hit a ball hard.
Right.
So I think for our benefit and for your benefit, if you're watching, I'd love to take the term banger, put it over here into a category where I would define it as a banger is someone who selects power when finesse may have been the more appropriate shot, or exercising their soft game may have been the more appropriate shot. I don't think these guys necessarily fall into that category.
Okay.
Especially with the short returns, keeping their foot on the gas, was a good play.
Right.
But if we, for getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, I'm happy to discuss, like, when we do play against bangers who choose power when finesse would have been more appropriate or the soft game would have been more appropriate, how at the 4-0, 4-5 level can we make them pay for that?
If you want to talk about how to defeat bangers as how you're defining it, we can. But I think more appropriate for this show, our level, is how to effectively play against players who have an excellent power game, not bangers.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and chalk up that second game loss to losing to better players.
Yeah.
I think we're going to lose 9 out of 10.
Right.
Including on a less windy day, but I think they managed the wind really well and stuck to their game and played well.
Right.
There were some examples of you guys handling it well, but I think all things being equal, they were better. Which is a nice opportunity, assuming that they're 4.9s to win and break through the 4-5. But that would be a tough thing to do there.
Sure.
But I definitely have some thoughts.
Yeah. I feel like, yes, they're definitely better players, but we could have, maybe the points weren't representative. There were some really shabby points on our part that I didn't throw in there. But there's some, you did see some shabby points as well. But I feel like we could have handled it better. You always feel that way after a tournament, tournament loss. You're like, oh, I didn't play my potential. But, I feel like that there's some room for improvement, definitely room for improvement. And also, what did we do wrong that we could have done better given our skill set? Yeah. So before we move on to key concepts, we do have a sponsor for this week's Analyzing Tape, and that is Babolat Footwear. So Babolat came out with a pickleball shoe recently, so the Jet Mach Pickleball, which is the same as their Jet Mach 3 tennis court shoes in a new colorway. But you can use the code Johnkew and get 20% off. They raised their discounts. You get 20% off. That brings the price from $149 down to $119. And this is, their court shoes are, Ben Johns plays in them. They're well known as being an excellent lightweight court shoe. So if you enjoy lightweight shoes, check out Babolat.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oh, one clarification too. They don't apparently have a 6-month outsole warranty. We thought they did last episode, but they do have Michelin outsoles, which are a little more durable, but it's not a 6-month warranty. All right, well, let's move on to Key Concepts, Scott. And we have another sponsor for our Key Concepts segment, and that is Brioti Eyewear. And you and I both have some Brioti eyewear. I've been using them for a while now. They have the Focus frames, which are kind of these, squarish frames that give you a wide-angle perspective, which I love. Z87 rated protection. So they actually, if you go to the Brioti website, they have some high-speed footage of balls hitting the dummy with the glasses on, and that versus another regular pair of glasses. And the regular pair of glasses, the lenses pop out and the frames break, but the Brioti perform well under high pressure. And I like to switch out interchangeably. They're pretty easy to switch out the lenses. The Augment 4D shade, which is their outdoor, and it gives you a really high resolution perspective. They've messed around with the colors, the color spectrum to really give you a high resolution perspective outdoors. And then for indoors, it's nearly a clear lens called the Dinkum Plus. It has a blue blocking technology. I've had issues playing with anything but totally clear lenses indoors. These perform well indoors, even though they're slightly tinted with that blue blocking technology. So good stuff from Brioti, $214. You can take 10% off with the code BREAKTHROUGH. That's 2 words, break and through. Good stuff.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to getting a little more experience with them, but I definitely, I'm an indoor player 99% of the time, but I have eyewear on 100% of the time.
Right.
Including, with lessons and such, a lot of the balls that are hitting us in the face are coming off our partner's paddle, not directly ahead. I do hear complaints, it's uncomfortable. I'm having a little trouble seeing break through that problem. Deal with it. Get accustomed to it. It's your vision.
Right.
You're not going to be comfortable not playing pickleball the rest of your life with eye damage. So I encourage everyone to get over the hump and learn to be comfortable with protective eyewear.
100%. So Scott, take us through some 1 or more key concepts here that are kind of relevant to this, what you saw in our tournament play.
Yeah, I would like to address, strategies, a couple of strategies, some obvious and less obvious ones for beating bangers, to playing against bangers, and to follow up on the previous conversation. I credit your opponents who beat you for not necessarily being bangers. Mm-hmm. That they were just better players. They managed their pace well. Mm-hmm. And their decision-making, they were just a little better on that day. Mm-hmm. So again, bangers may select power when finesse or the soft game would have been the more appropriate play. So when we're faced with that, the number one thing that we can do better is to let out balls go out. And then there are a number of clues, many of which present themselves prior to them hitting the ball, mm-hmm. and then some other clues that happen after the ball leaves their paddle. And you looked fairly tapped in to some of those as you were playing. Again, these guys were just good. They weren't hitting the fence all that often with it. But I'd love to run through some of these clues for your benefit and for our audience at the same time.
Great.
And discuss as needed. We saw in your tape that one of the first clues is their proximity to the net or lack thereof. So if they're back behind the baseline, mm-hmm. there's an ample amount of gravity available to assist them and time for it to come into play. So I would, from a clue reading standpoint, be inclined to play their drive if they're back behind the baseline. The closer they get to the net, I'm starting to think perhaps there's not enough time or gravity to assist their drive, especially given the equipment that we're playing with that doesn't produce as much spin on a tiny court compared to tennis.
Right.
So when we're playing against tennis players, or we are tennis players, let's keep in mind it's somewhat rudimentary equipment on a tiny court. Mm-hmm. So proximity to the net is pretty important. You identified it earlier as well. Height of the ball off the ground prior to them striking the ball will have a lot to do with the anticipated trajectory of their shot. If the ball is 6 inches off the ground and they're getting a little closer to the net, we can wager the trajectory is going to have to be fairly steep, and then there's just not enough court, to land that ball in play.
Right.
So again, I'm making some decisions. I'm guessing that ball might go long. You identified in the tape as well the size of their backswing, factored into the other two clues that we've already identified. If their backswing is excessive for their court positioning and the ball is close to the ground, I'm starting to really wager that they cannot keep this ball in play. And then the pace. Okay, so those are all pre-striking the ball. And then we have to make a decision about the pace that they hit the ball. If it's soft pace, well, maybe the trajectory doesn't much matter, but we're likely dealing with high pace here, so let's factor that. And then the height over the net, or where is it in proximity to us? I loved when you got down low and you basically put your eyes at the level where your paddle was, and anything higher than that, if you're faced with the anticipated pace and trajectory, we're going to let it go. And any lower than that, you're going to play it. So, we hear, chest high, shoulder high, let it fly. Yeah, but if the pace is low and or spin, we're going to have to factor those things in. And let's talk about spin. At the 4-5 level, before they hit the ball, their body language, their paddle prep position should be telling us about their spin. If they take the paddle back high and they brush downward, it's going to be backspin. And backspin is the preferable spin for a home run hitter. When they want to put it over center field fence, they want backspin. Right. So if we see this trajectory or they're going to swing down on the ball, we've got to wager that they can't keep that ball in play. But if they start well below the ball and they swing low to high and brush over the ball, at 4-5, we know that that's what topspin's going to look like, and we can go ahead and anticipate that ball might dip, and we may need to be able to play that ball. Factoring in wind, we had a lot of it, right there. We've got to make a proactive decision before the game even starts. We are more or less inclined to let out balls go out based on the headwind or the tailwind that we're being presented with. All good so far?
All good, right.
Okay. Advanced knowledge of opponents and their tendencies. Again, during warm-ups. If I'm warming up with these guys on the other half of the court, I'm noticing their drives are quite good. I'm noticing they have topspin. We may need to play some of these balls, or we need to be aware of factoring in the clues because of the advanced knowledge that we have. Right. It's not a lot of advanced knowledge. If you watch them play the whole previous match, you probably, are having this discussion with Eric about their about their tendencies. Where are you on the court is an important question. Vertically speaking, we're generally thinking about that we're at the non-volley zone, but at maybe the 3-8 to 4-0 level, I see players who are back in the midcourt or closer to the baseline playing balls that are clearly going out. Okay. And that's no longer shoulder high, let it fly. Anything over their knees that they take out of the air close to the baseline. Right. We've got to be aware, of where we are there. So that's vertically speaking. But then we had a little look at it earlier that if you are cross court from the ball that's being played, they no longer have 22 feet of court to land the ball in. They have less than that, which is why they shouldn't be driving cross court, especially from the midcourt, because they just don't have enough favorable geometry to land that ball in play. Right. So we'll be more inclined to let out balls go out when they're driving at us cross court. Sound. We need to use all our senses to make these very fast decisions. Is that ball going out or is it landing in? And we have all these modern paddles. Many of them make the customary sounds that are associated with high pace. Some of them don't. Right. And I consider myself very good at letting out balls go out. But some modern paddles, if I don't get the audible cue that it's coming hot, I don't make the right decision. And all of a sudden the ball's in my chest and I should have let that ball go. Right. So that's an important factor these days. So as the paddle guru, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm always focused in on the paddles. Clearly I got it wrong with the last match we played. I thought he had a Selkirk Lux, right. But he had a 007. So that does make a difference, which is kind of ironic because I gave the 007 kind of a I never reviewed it, but I've never really spoken highly of it. I don't think it's a great paddle. And, I give a lot of credit to Selkirk for their labs program. I think it's great, but I don't think they hit it out of the park on that one. And then some guy comes along and just demolishes me with it, right? So kind of funny, but had I known that it was a 007, as I was playing, I don't think it made any difference. But I'm always kind of tuned into the paddles. You're right. Auditory cues are huge with regard to that. If somebody's playing with the Owl or one of the new gearboxes, they're not quite approved. It takes a while to map onto that soundscape, right? So, yeah, I love all the things you said. Clearly, it's something that's on the mind of every player from 3.5 to 4.5, right, and above, clearly. But relevance to this show in the 4.5 level, these are all things we should have fairly dialed in. Do you have anything? Well, I guess we can talk about this on the homework, but do you have anything to drill this besides rote practice, just getting the reps in and those 10,000 hours that we need to become more proficient? Do you have anything in particular to practice letting out balls go, for example?
I do, but know that my recommended game plan for beating bangers, that this is only the first element. But it's got to be first. Like, we've got to be better at the approaching 4.5 level at letting out balls go out. But then there's, it's not going out. What can I do about that? So let me go over a couple of those, and then we'll put it together in a way to help us do all of the above, including letting out balls go out.
Perfect.
We saw a couple of examples in the video of your split step timing either being suboptimal or missing, completely. So especially when we're playing against big hitters, so let's just call them all big hitters, we need to gather our feet, be in a position to ready our body and to evaluate in or out. And that starts with a better time split step when the ball is on their paddle. Gather intel, run through those clues subconsciously, and we'll practice those so it can be subconscious. And then read and react. And then I also saw, one or two times where, as part of that process, once you've decided he's going to drive, is I want you to favor your backhand or favor your forehand, but not neither of the two. Most of our viewers are going to be better at a backhand counter than we are with a forehand counter. So I would have liked for you to read, react, split step, and slide a little bit right to favor your backhand counter and or, let it fly from there. And then when you do read and react to a ball that you've decided is going to be in, I want you to show gratitude for their pace. And we've talked about that on the show before, that when they provide us pace, that gives us the benefit of we don't have to do as much. We need to just meet it square. And meeting it in the sweet spot goes back to the split step and gathering and reading and reacting, but then block that ball back to their feet, And I'm going to suggest that, in 3.8 to 4.3, that if you block that first ball back at their feet and they take a big backswing, get out of the way, because the second one goes in the fence.
Okay.
They're like, well, I guess I didn't hit it hard enough. I need to hit the next one. So I had a student on court the other day where I would drive one at him. He would block it back to me. I would tee off on the next one. And the goal of his drill was to proactively step out of the way of the second one. Just practice that pattern. Block one, step out of the way of the second one. I would oblige.
Right.
I'd put it in the fence.
Right.
For him.
No, I love that idea. Right.
All right. And similarly, there can be a case where we proactively take pace off the ball. Again, we split step, we react, they're driving, they're fairly far back in the court. I'm going to take pace off the ball. I'm going to have it intentionally land short. Now, if they're truly bangers, we can anticipate one of two good things happening for us. They're on their heels, and it bounces twice, and we win the rally. That would be great.
Right.
Or they get there, they get their paddle on it, and now we've got kind of good thing 2A and B. 2A, they insist on driving the next one, and we can duck and get out of the way. Or the right thing that they should do is drop, dink, and now we've got them into the style of play that's more favorable for us, which is kitchen-based play.
So you're saying on the return of serve, focus on a purposefully short, really short, like a drop. Return.
Not the return of serve, the fourth.
Oh, okay, the fourth.
The
Gotcha.
fourth.
All right.
Return deep.
Okay.
Return deep.
Every time. Right.
Move forward, split step on contact. And instead of on the fourth, trying to keep them back, which may feed right into a shake and bake strategy, or they're going to tee off on their fifth. Let's hit a shorter fourth.
Invite them to the kitchen on the fourth.
Yes, and again, it might bounce twice.
Right.
I'll give a good example of Jeannie Bouchard and Steffi Graf in the slam. A few weeks back, Steffi was hitting drives at Jeannie, and as the 20-some-odd time Grand Slam winner that she is in tennis, she stayed back instead of following her drive in. Jeannie would drop volley her fourth in Steffi's direction, and it bounced 2 or 3 times before either of them got there.
Gotcha.
Because Jeannie read that Steffi's not following her ball in.
Right.
There were several of those. So that's best case scenario, drop your fourth.
I like that.
They're either going to drive it in the fence or put it into the kitchen, and now we're in kitchen play, which is more favorable for us.
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah, I love that strategy.
Okay. One more follow-up to that, the anti-shake and bake. All right, so if you and Eric decide, wow, they're driving their thirds, the non-hitter of the third is collapsing toward the middle of the court, let's proactively decide, let's hit the deepest return, that we can. And instead of on our fourth, trying to keep them back or trying to find the open space back to the driver, let's volley at where the partner's supposed to be. Odds are they're in the middle of the court because they're proactively shaking and baking.
Okay.
Let's at least get them, having to play a ball behind them.
Okay.
Or maybe there's wide open court, and we need to do that proactively.
So not even at their feet so much as, well, I guess you want it at their feet if you can. But
sure.
Okay. But you go back basically where they should be, so behind them if they are creeping center.
Yeah, proactively. Well, hopefully we only had to see them shake and bake us once to realize, wow, those drives are really impactful. It's going to be hard for me to find open space back to the driver,
right? Because
their partner's cutting it off beautifully. And we saw it in the video review. They were clogging the middle of the court, looking to cut that ball off. Let's just go right back to where they're supposed to be, and I don't think they're going to be there anymore.
Right.
Or they're going to be off balance and they'll pop it up.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, great strategies.
Okay.
So those are your key concepts. Should we move now into homework and kind of pull this all together into actionable items that we can practice?
Sure.
So before I forget, I mentioned this earlier in the show, and maybe we can come up with ways to practice this. But you mentioned that you would have liked to see me, instead of using like a pancake on a ball that is about face level at one point, you wanted me to slide and do some topspin on that.
Right.
Now that I've actually been trying to erase from my muscle memory, because I often do the topspin, and I've been told that that's not as effective by some people, and I should really smack it and be more offensive with my return. So I've been actively trying to train myself to use that pancake grip more.
Right.
So interesting to hear you say that. So I'd like to explore that more. And also, how in general can I get better with my forehand shield versus my backhand? That's definitely one of my strengths is the backhand. I can get a lot of pace on just that little punch. Forehand, I feel like I'm way behind skill wise with that. Something about when my arm is straight, I'm able to get good torque on it.
Right.
Anywhere here, I just feel like it's just my arm is lame. I'm not able to really get any pace on it. So
yeah, and we're saying the same things, but what we need to clarify is how fast is the ball coming at you? And my suggestion is if it's a soft-ish ball coming at you, I'd like to see you slide left, generate some momentum with the paddle, because this ball's soft. There's no gratitude to be shown for their pace yet. We're going to have to generate pace. And if you do that here, all right, I find it hits the net tape or the fence too often. It's got backspin on it, and we're 7-8 feet away from the net. So if instead we're able to brush over the ball, it will go up and down and then bounce aggressively.
Okay.
So with that one ball that came at you soft and we went like this, there wasn't enough action on the ball to impact his reset.
Okay.
But if they hit the ball at you hard and we show gratitude for their pace, with your techniques, I'm comfortable with you using their pace, redirecting it right back at them, or this way.
Okay.
I think you can do either one. If you hold a paddle with a continental grip, it's a little more difficult to do that on the forehand side, and so we're going to need to be more backhand dominant.
Okay.
Most of us are going to be more backhand dominant with that. So if there's high pace, let's block either way. If there's less pace on the ball and we need to generate pace, I'd rather you slide left, take a bit of a lowercase backwards C backswing, not a big ginormous backswing, but let's just get a little bit of velocity on the paddle head and brush over it so we can generate pace and spin.
I like that framework, and it's something I'll practice. And I'm envisioning even just going out with a ball machine and having it at 2 settings, one fast, one slow, and practice punching the fast ones, top spinning the slower ones. Is that something that you would recommend?
Yes, but and if you can get Eric or a practice partner to grab a basket of balls, head back 2-3 steps inside the baseline, and give you a full variety of heavy pace drives. Play with the spin. Let him show a backswing and a slice, and you're more inclined to let that ball go.
Okay.
Any ball you think is out, let's read the clues and get better at letting out balls go out. So not only straight ahead, but have him drive at you cross court where he has less room to land that ball in play.
Yeah.
Let's get better at reading the geometry there. And then he mixes the pace. If he gives you heavy pace, we're looking to block that ball back. If he doesn't give you much pace, I want you to slide left and generate your own pace and spin.
Yeah.
So, you can do that for several baskets in a row. Just keep switching roles and give them a full complement of drives with top spin and slice, some with pace, some without pace, and go through all the clues and just being better at dealing with the heavy pace ball from the midcourt.
I like that. And hearing you talk about it, I'm realizing that probably one of my issues with not having any power with my range forehand between full extension and here, like I like these, that's punchy. I don't like anything here. I like this, anything in between. It's probably I need to slide more.
Yes.
And we saw our opponents do that beautifully, right? And I need to practice and ingrain the sliding to the left. I do it well when I'm sliding right to take my backhand, but not so much sliding left for my forehand.
Yeah, and that sliding left to free up the forehand comes from tennis.
Okay.
So that player, clearly had that in his background. Maybe some racquetball or squash in there as well. But that's something you'll need to learn.
Yeah. I like it. All right, Scott, you had a series of excellent key concepts. Can you walk us through what you would assign for homework this week to practice those?
I think the drill that we just discussed, if you can get a partner or a ball machine or both, let's focus on this concept of getting better at letting out balls go out, whether they're coming directly at you or on an angle, which should be a more heightened awareness of letting the ball go out, as well as the techniques that go into playing the counter, getting that ball back at their feet, whether you're generating your own pace or not. So I'd like to just build on this concept right here with a ball machine and or a drilling partner.
Okay, fantastic. And you mentioned something that really stuck with me in the key concepts, and that is to prevent shake and bakes, volley it back at the person who didn't serve it, right? So to prevent
Who didn't hit the third.
Didn't hit the third, sorry.
Right.
Yeah. I have an issue with remembering.
Well, I do this all day. Yeah.
Okay, right. Remembering what number we're dealing with here.
Right.
So preventing that person from creeping middle is just go back at where they should be.
Right. The baker.
The baker, exactly.
Yes. Where's the baker supposed to be?
Yeah.
Plan proactively to volley in their direction.
Okay.
And they're not going to be there anymore.
Okay. And so is there a drill you could practice that with? Not to put you on a spot here, but...
We could probably craft a drill, but I think, if you can get yourself on court with some drivers, then you could practice that, whether they're actually shaking and baking or not. I bet they're leaning middle. and you can get them a little off balance, and really just try, pre-return of serve. Let's try to get our returns nice and deep. But whichever one of us is going to hit the fourth, let's proactively plan to go at the baker.
Okay. I like it. Great. Any other drills you wanted to discuss?
We'll throw this out there and see if it makes the edit or not. I'll call it a double secret tip in dealing with big hitters.
Okay.
It could be mixed, or it could be that just one of the two of you doesn't handle pace as well as the other. Let's leverage stacking to get us diagonal from the big hitter on the other side. If they're both big hitters, then we're in trouble. But if there's one big hitter, like the blue shirt was a big hitter, let's say you were struggling with pace more than Eric.
Right.
So you got a righty-lefty team. Those are traditional reasons to stack, but you may want to go non-traditional to get the player less comfortable dealing with pace diagonal from the big hitter, because they just don't have as much room. You get a little bit more time, and they don't have as favorable of geometry to deal with that pace. So leverage stacking to help you with that.
Yeah, that's a great strategic concept that I knew, but I'd never really think about. So yeah, that's great to have in the toolbox. So thinking back, I did visit Zane Navratil, and we discussed the same things, and he had a couple of key concepts for me. One is exactly the same as yours, and that is return deep. That's your main, your main kryptonite for people that love heavy third shot drives, right? So he had me like almost run through the ball and said that if you have the mobility, it's actually better to hit more of a tennis return of serve than the lofty one that allows you to get to the kitchen in plenty of time against people who know how to leverage power for thirds. And I did that, and as you're running through the ball, it gives you a head start to the kitchen, and it's actually been beneficial. It is a little more difficult to move through the ball, and that's one of the few things in pickleball that you and others can recommend, actually moving through the ball instead of being set. So I've been practicing that. What are your thoughts on that? Hitting more of a tennis drive rather than the lofty return of serve to give yourself time.
I think you did a great overview of that, and I think Zane, is offering you good advice there. The part about it being more difficult can be minimized by leveraging more of a compact backswing. Because we're moving, because our center of mass is moving toward the net, if we add a full backswing, it's going to go long. Or you're going to mishit the ball because there's just too much happening at once.
Right.
So tennis players, it's more tennis volley technique than it is a ground stroke, because it's a shorter court. We're grateful for their pace. Use your legs and your center of mass moving toward the net, and just use a very compact backswing.
Yeah.
For that. We'll get more of them on the sweet spot. And then we're offsetting the lack of hang time by getting a head start toward the net. And reminder, our destination is not necessarily the non-volley zone. It's a well-timed, productive split step a few feet away from the non-volley zone when the ball is on their paddle, which ideally is behind the baseline, way back on the other side, courtesy of our deep return.
Right. Okay. I like it. And his other main point was do more drills for fast hands. And he noticed that when I do that, I have a tendency, especially on the forehand side, to take a backswing instead of meeting everything with pace out in front of me and just, no backswing, just punch it a little bit. So that's something I've been incorporating into my practice drilling a little more. And I think that is helpful just in terms of overall dealing with pace coming at you at the kitchen.
Yeah. And I think fast hands is part drilling and actually mechanically improving the speed, but also the anticipation. What clues, can we anticipate prior to them hitting the ball? What kind of defensive readiness position can I get in? Because I'm reading, I think the attack is about to come. Let me get my shield up one way or the other in your peripheral vision, not back here.
Yeah, exactly. Excellent. All right, Scott, great episode. Do you have any more things you want to talk about before we sign off?
I think we're good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks so much. And
thank you.
Yeah, drive safe in the snow.
You too.